virtual artist reception with 3 artists. So thank you for joining us. Excited to have you all. Anna Segner, Rachel Duttmeyer, and Seho Park. We are going to hear from each of them separately, and we're going to go by alphabetical order by first name. And so Anna, you're up first. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the background behind your work?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep. Yes.
All right, good. Always want to make sure. Sure, so I'm Anna Segner, and you can actually kind of see my work behind these two. A little bit about myself. I'm from Minnesota, and I currently teach drawing over at Iowa State. So I'm in Ames, Iowa right now. We had about 40-degree weather, so not as good as Rachel, but we're getting there. But a little bit about my work and my background. I primarily studied writing in undergrad, and then following that, I worked as a reporter in southern Minnesota, a newspaper reporter. Then I went to grad school and focused in painting. I started out doing kind of like more nature paintings of animals, and that led to my interest in being a little bit more critical. So I got really interested in critical animal studies, in which studying, researching the cultural representation of animals. And I found like that research to be much more engaging and interesting than my maybe more just nature-oriented paintings of animals. So I wanted to become more critical in my work, which is where I'm my paintings in this exhibition are coming from. And yeah, there's a quote here from me. So yeah, these are a couple paintings here. The work is primarily looking, sort of investigating the strangeness of having all of these nature-oriented or like fake nature items in our home. So you can see here, these are primarily focused on toys, and my interest in why so many toys are nature oriented, especially, or animals, why so many like baby toys and things, or children's toys are animals. And kind of investigating the contradiction between their popularity in toy form and then our actions as humans towards actual animals, right? Just juxtaposing those things. So I've got these, which I start out as still lives, kind of, I call them play scenes, right? Especially that bottom one, which is called End Table Ecosystem, the one bottom left. Yeah, so here's a piece, forest illustration. I'm not sure if you want me to talk specifically about each piece, or I can do that.
Well, you saw how the art is viewed in the gallery, and then we have a close-up picture of each of those pieces. And then, so if we go to the next one, that was the one that you were just, am I muted?
Right.
Nope.
Yep.
Okay.
This is, yeah, the end table ecosystem, right? And just kind of that overwhelming sort of trying to communicate sort of the fakeness, right? So we've got like fake nature expressed in textiles in the home, as well as even as simple as on like a coffee mug or something like that. Just sort of the aesthetics of nature in the home, even though we're inside, and why we want to bring nature inside, even though like as a society, we're getting kind of further and further away from actual interactions with nature. So I'm investigating that like clear love of nature, but the disconnect in our actual lives. Let's see, maybe what's next. Yeah, so I can speak a little bit about the two cutout pieces. Those tend to be an area of interest. These pieces were the result of a grant that I got from Iowa State University. I was really interested in, like, at the time, or I guess at the time, I was interested in how certain animals sort of flash in the news, right? So like we'll be hearing all about like polar bears like one week, right? Or like one day we'll be hearing all about black rhinos and how like they're going extinct. But then like the next day we're pretty much on to something else. But I'm interested in things, and I'm interested in how, thinking specifically about my rhino piece, I heard some stat about how there was only like 2,000 something rhinos left, black rhinos left. And I became interested in the fact that we definitely have more plastic toy animals than actual rhinos themselves. So I wanted to make a very clear sort of juxtaposition of that with these pieces. So these are actually like basically created a shelving unit, stretched canvas on top of it, painted an actual rhino and polar bear in their habitats. And then I actually cut them away. As you can see, they've been like ripped away from their environment. And you sort of have like the blank canvas side, their bodies literally just kind of hanging from there, revealing the toys and decor items themselves. So that was a really fun project. I think in general, I'd like to create more of these pieces going forward. If anybody's heard of Titus Caffar, he's a artist working, he kind of started my thought process here because he does a lot of paintings relating to race, and he thinks about erasure. He also rips away from the canvas. So he kind of opened up my eyes in terms of like, what can I do with paintings besides just painting on them? So these pieces are sort of my new direction, I'd say, and thinking more three-dimensionally. Plus, I want to actually use the objects that I have that I'm using in still lives. How can I actually like use those objects, think about the weight of them, and yeah, use them along with painting. So
That's very informative.
good.
Yeah. So then that's how they're displayed in the gallery. And then you see that white wall. We're going to go to the, well, sure, that one's there too.
That was.
There we go.
Yes. So this piece arc, this was one of my earliest paintings where I was starting to think about toys, and sort of kind of the beginning piece for my interest. I really was interested in toys in particular because they're sort of like a lowbrow type thing. You don't oftentimes see toys rendered in paintings as much. A lot of these toys are like the plastic figurines, and later pieces I even use like McDonald's toys that come in like Happy Meals or Beanie Babies, things that like as a society we don't see as necessarily having a lot of value, yet like these are the things that we're giving our kids. And I think toys in general do reflect a value of a society, or at least we learn something from the objects that we play with as kids. So I do think it's interesting that we do choose to give children so many animal-based toys, and what that means. Clearly, I think that there is a love there, but again, the juxtaposition of how actual animals are treated in real life, there's sort of a disconnect between the toys and the reality. Yeah, I wonder what we've got next. These are a couple of my newer paintings. Watering hole in the center there. And then I've got dinner in the toy room. This is sort of a toy rendering of like real life. So like a crocodile eating actual things that it would eat in real life. Watering hole here. I became interested in my memory as well of when I was little. I often tried to like create the natural environment that I thought that animals would live in. So like I would kind of create like hills with blankets and things like that. So I always loved playing with my animal toys. So here I kind of wanted to create that domestic habitat, right? So the watering hole. And this I was inspired by Saigo Chang's piece where he's got the taxidermy animals around a watering hole, and then also Jan Bruegel's Paradise paintings where he's got animals both endangered, extinct, predator and prey, all in one painting, sort of living harmoniously. I see that reflected in play as well, with children where they're just interested in, kind of having all the animals play harmoniously, not having sort of those gruesome nature scenes. And then also we've got the domestic natural themes coming here as well. And as much as there are sort of like critiques, right, of it, both consumerism and some environmental issues, they're also like nostalgic of play, and like children's imagination, I think in general.
This one actually, Kenzie, she's like, I had that toy
The cat on the right
when I was
there.
little.
Oh, really?
So it was nostalgic for her.
It might not be the exact same, but it's very similar to the one I had.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely even see like Fisher Price on the,
Yeah, yes.
foot. And, like it's so interesting. Like these are so close to us, but they're also consumer objects that, yeah, like we all share, and are sold. These three are, I have two sisters, and they're our like favorite toy stuffed animals from when we were little. So it's a little bit of a
So which one was your favorite?
The center one. I put mine in the center, but I'm also the middle child, so it makes sense in that way chronologically as well.
Oh,
So yeah.
Talked about that
thank
one a
you.
lot. And then
Yeah.
one more.
Yes, one
last
more.
one. But you don't have to say much if you don't.
Was this a
want to,
more
but-
recent one that you did?
Oh, Duck Dynasty.
Duck Dynasty?
This is a more recent one as well. And I'm pretty much, I guess this is exploring a little bit of different themes, but thinking like biological anatomy of an animal versus toy anatomy, and how we adjust features, right, that we consider cute, right? Or like you can see the juxtaposition of the bill of an actual duck, and then how we might in cartoons and things kind of, we've got that idea of duck lip, right? Even though their bills are pretty much straight, not really rooted in reality. So yeah, that's kind of the general idea of the pieces. So yeah,
Nice. Thank you.
thank you.
Next, we have Rachel Duttmeyer.